experience a clunking sensation or even a loud clunking noise in your hip joint every time you're exercising, lifting your leg off the ground while you're lying on your back? Is that clunking sound so loud that even your personal trainer can hear it and it shocks them that they think you better stop those exercises in case something really bad is happening? Hi there, it's Neesha from My Favourite Physio. In today's video, I'm jumping in to talk about 3 possible causes for your hip clunking or clicking sounds that you may hear every time you're exercising, lifting your leg up off the ground when you're lying on your back. So here at My Favourite Physio, we see lots of people who come in complaining of hip pain. Recently, we had a lady come in telling us there's this clunk sensation and sound when she lifts her leg up to do certain exercises. It is so loud that her personal trainer hears it and they're all scared, thinking something bad is happening in her hip. So she's not allowed to do some exercises until that hip clunking sound is sorted. So I thought I would jump in and share with you the 3 possible causes for that clunking sound or sensation you may feel in your hip joint when you're doing certain movements at your hip. The first cause is the hip joint itself. So some people may not be aware, but when they're little, their hip joints were not well developed, but developed enough to be walking on it. However, the hip joint might be a little bit shallow. So we would call that developmental dysplasia of the hip. And there are people out there who had some shallow hip joints that were never picked up as a child. So we take an x-ray and have a look at the hip joint. If your hip joint is shallow, so your hip joints are made of your pelvic bone that makes a socket, and your thigh bone and the head of your thigh bone that makes a ball joint. So this ball and socket joint allows you to move your leg up and down in lots of direction. If that socket or pelvic joint is too shallow, you'll find that when you lift your leg up in certain positions, it clunks in and out, which gives you that clunking sound, almost like a bone in and out when you're moving it. If that's the case, then, unfortunately, your hip joints were too shallow and not treated when you were a baby. So it may be something that you have to handle as you get on and be aware of what exercises may be aggravating it a little bit too much. And then avoid it, because otherwise you're at risk of early arthritis. The number 2 cause for that clunking sound in your hip whenever you move it in certain positions is tendon inflammation. So we have tendons around your hip joint, particularly around the front and the side of your hip joint, those big muscles that come from your thigh, from your knee up into your hip joint. If you've been overworking your muscles, those tendons can be a bit inflamed, so they're a little bit more thickened, a little bit swelling around. So when you move your hip joint, you might find a tendon clicking around in your bone as you move it in end of range positions. So right at the end of range, you might feel this click and click every time you move, and that's what's causing it. So if that's the case, then it's treating that muscle and the tendon inflammation that will stop that clicking or clunking sound. The third possible cause is muscle imbalance. So all the muscles around your hip joint, your gluteal muscles, that is your buttock muscle around the back, your thigh muscles in the front and on the side, so on the outside of your thigh, in the inside of your thigh, as well as the back of your thigh, those muscles all work around your hip joint. If there's muscle imbalance, meaning some muscles are tighter and some muscles are weaker, when you're doing certain positions, you might find that the tighter muscles pull your hip in a certain direction, so it then clunks in and out when you're moving it. So it could be muscle imbalance around your hip joint, and all the thigh muscles down to your knee that's causing your hip joint to not move correctly when you're in certain positions, giving you that clicking or clunking sensation and sound. So the way forward, if you are experiencing that, is to actually see an expert physiotherapist who can diagnose the cause for your hip clunking and treat it correctly. If that sounds like you and you're struggling to do your gym program, or your personal trainer saying, stop, don't do any more exercises until that hip is sorted, why don't you ring us here at My Favourite Physio, speak to one of our expert physiotherapists. The number to ring is 0297904233. And if you know somebody out there who's been experiencing this clunking sound, and although it doesn't cause them pain, it's almost embarrassing whenever you do an exercise and everybody can hear a loud clunk at your hip, why don't you like and share this video with them? Until next time, have a great day. Bye.